Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Geoffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health, and really without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of Nerdery and Murdery.
You're an idiot.
Hello, Murdery, episode 100. We are doing a wife swap today.
Yay, episode 100. Man.
100!
Dude, that's incredible to me that we are at 100 episodes.
100 episodes, sir.
Started almost 2 years ago.
Almost.
Putting these together. We're not quite. We're at 2 years on the developing of the concept of the show.
Yes, we are.
We got quite a while to go till we're at our actual 2-year mark, but yeah, at 100 episodes, 100 episodes of nerd culture stuff, both music, TV, movies, comic books, toys,
murders, cults.
Yes, murders, cults, missing people. Just absolutely. I'm just floored. I'm floored that we're at 100 episodes. I wouldn't believe we've made it to this far.
I figured we'd start running out of stuff to talk about 250. So, which is right at the 5-year mark. So I think 260 is 5 years. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I know I'm good for at least another 150 more. So.
Well, I've got, unfortunately, plenty to cover on true crime, so it's out there and prevalent still. We haven't stopped any of that, so got plenty of that. So
No, sir. But hey, a few times a year, you get to take a break from the true crime and do something nerdery. Today, I'll take that mantle.
Yes, yes. So I guess I will take over on the nerdery side of the house and start with something that I have nerded out on several times. I've been through this series several times. As a matter of fact, I'm just finishing up going through it again. I've got 1 or 2 episodes left and I'll have been through the whole series again. And I'm going to do the TV show Justified.
Justified.
So, as I stick with crime, Justified is an American neo-Western crime drama television series that debuted on March 16, 2010 on the FX network. It was developed by Graham Yost. It's based on Elmore Leonard's short stories about the character Raylan Givens, particularly Fire in the Hole. Timothy Oliphant portrays Raylan Givens, a tough U.S. deputy U.S. Marshal enforcing his own brand of justice. And the series revolves around the inhabitants and culture in the Appalachian Mountains area of eastern Kentucky, specifically Harlan County, where many of the main characters grew up. It also features Lexington, Kentucky, where the local U.S. Marshal's office is situated. And the series, comprising of 78 episodes, was aired over 6 seasons and concluded on April 14, 2005. Justified received an average audience score of 94% on Rotten Tomatoes and an average critic rating of 97%. So it's very highly rated. Have you watched this series?
Yes, I have. I don't think I've watched it all the way through. I will go back and watch the first 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think I need to get it and do some more of it. But I love the first 2 seasons.
You should definitely get into the third. The third is probably one of my favorites. I love the villain in the third one. I think it's the fourth or 5th season. I'm trying to remember here. The fifth season I'm not as big on. I really don't like the villains in the 5th season. They annoy me and I just wish they would go away. So I just power through the 5th season. But it's a great TV show. It received critical acclaim through most of its run and has been listed by several publications as one of the best shows of the 2010s.
That's some stiff competition too.
Yes, it is. Its acting, directing, art direction, and writing were praised, as well as the performances of Oliphant and Walter Goggins. Walt Goggins in this is just great, and he's in every season, as well as Oliphant.
I love Walt Goggins.
I do too. Justified was nominated for 8 Primetime Emmy Awards, with 2 wins for Margot Martindale's performance as Mags Bennett and Jeremy Davis's portrayal as Dickie Bennett. Dickie Bennett becomes an annoying character to me as well. In January of 2022, FX announced Justified City Primeval, a limited sequel series with Oliphant reprising his role as Raylan Givens, and it's set to premiere sometime in 2023.
Oh, we're getting some new Justified. Nice.
Yeah, he's going to go to Detroit.
Oh,
so gets out of Kentucky and he goes to Detroit. Deputy U.S. Marshal Raylan Givens is something of a 19th century Old West style lawman living in modern times. His unconventional enforcement of justice makes him the target of criminals and a problem child to his U.S. Marshal Service superior. In response to his controversial but justified quick-draw shooting of mob hitman Tommy Bucks in Miami, Givens is reassigned to the Eastern District of Kentucky Marshal's Office, which is based in Lexington. And this jurisdiction includes Harlan County, where Raylan was born and raised, and which he had thought he had escaped for most of his youth. So the story arc of season 1 concentrates mostly on the Crowder family. Raylan is trying to protect Ava Crowder, who's Joelle Carter, from the rest of the Crowder clan after she shoots and kills her husband, Bowman Crowder, in retaliation for years of abuse. Her biggest threat initially comes from Boyd Crowder, who's a local criminal masquerading as a white supremacist who Raylan shoots in a standoff. Boylan survives the shot to the chest and claims as a sign of God that he should change his ways. So Boyd in season 1 almost seems like he wants to go through a redemption arc because he's gonna find God and he's gonna go help save people. Raylan doesn't believe him. And Boyd is sent to prison where he spends his time reading the Bible and preaching to conflicts, which is when we get introduced to the Crowder family patriarch, Bo, who's played by MC Gainey, who wants to rebuild his family drug trade and settle old scores, including one with Raylan's father, Arlo, who's cheating him out of money. Now, Arlo stays as a main character through the first few seasons as well before he passes on. Bo is released from prison, soon followed by Boyd, because Boyd gets released because of a technicality, and so he's prevented from being further incarcerated. And the technicality was that Raylan was sleeping with Ava, who was the prime witness at the time. Raylan gets himself into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Further complicating Raylan's relationship with Ava, he's dealing with his personal dilemmas, including working in the same building as his ex-wife, who's played by Natalie Z, who he still has feelings for. And then he keeps getting sent back to Harlan as Harlan is peppered with small crimes and big shootings, and then he has to go back to Harlan quite a bit to do investigation of his own. Season 1 is really peppered with a lot of filler episodes as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't concentrate 100% on Bo and Boyd, and there's a bunch of other different investigations that Raylan has to go through. Most of the seasons deal primarily with one single villain, family of villains, or ragtag of suspects. But season 1 seems to pepper in a lot of different other stuff. Raylan goes undercover for a couple of items. He has to go after a former one of his former captures that escaped him.
Yeah. Well, I would say that first season also kind of gives you that world. You kind of get it. It gives you a chance to really get into that world because, like I know in one episode, and I don't know if it's the first season or the second season, they go back to the high school, and it's been condemned.
That's in season 4.
Is that in season 4?
That's in season 4. Yep.
Yeah, because it's like, man, you really get a picture of this town. It's like, okay, so there was a coal mine. This was a prosperous area. I think it's just called a county now, and then the coal mine closes and everything dies. And you've got everybody who has to resort to crime to make a living. It's just, man, it's messed up.
Yeah, it is. It's a dying town, with the coal mines mostly shut down. They still have coal mines, and that really comes into play in season 2. Where they're dealing with the coal mines and the big corporate entities wanting to take over and blow up the coal mines and start something new for quote unquote clean energy.
Mm-hmm.
Season 1 closes with Boyd and Raylan having an uneasy friendship as they both have to, Boyd has to deal with the death of his father. And as they deal with still Miami Mafia or Miami Mob as a result of what Raylan does in the first episode to Tommy Bucks, that comes into play. And so they end season 1 with kind of an uneasy alliance between the two. Season 2 primarily deals with the criminal dealings of the Bennett clan, where family matriarch Mags Bennett, who's Margot Martindale, and her 3 sons, Dickie, Jeremy Davies, Coover, Brad William Henke, and Doyle Joseph Lyle Taylor, is the chief of Bennett Hollow Police. They plan to expand their marijuana business into Crowder territory following Bo's death, as Boyd has proven somewhat reluctant to follow in his father's footsteps. Raylan gets involved in the struggle between the two criminal organizations because of a long-standing feud between the Givens and Bennett families, centering on an incident between Raylan and Dickie in their youth, which left Dickie with a lame leg. Matters grow very complicated, with the pair's past catching up with them. And then meanwhile, an effort by a mining conglomerate to secure access rights to the mountain results in Raylan and Boyd becoming involved on opposite sides of the operation. And this provokes a local backlash against the Bennetts after Boyd reveals Mag's secret involvement in negotiation with the conglomerate to the detriment of her neighbors. This is a really, really good season. Mags Bennett is a great villain, and she is a great actress. Margot Martindale.
Yes.
She is phenomenal. And as I said earlier, she won a Primetime Emmy for her role in this season. It's a great, great season.
And this is kind of a departure for her too. She usually plays a way more sympathetic type character. Yeah. And she looks like she should be sympathetic, but she's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, she's real hardcore in this. I love her. She's outstanding in this. And that season closes really, really, really well. Season 3 introduces a new villain, Robert Quarles, who's Neil McDonough.
I love Neil McDonough.
I do too. I love him, and I don't think he gets enough roles. He is from Detroit in this. And the criminal organization he's connected to is connected to the Frankfurt mob, and they've exiled Quarles to Kentucky. In this season, Quarles allies himself with local enforcer Wynn Duffy, who we actually got introduced to way back in season 1, and begins to supplant the local criminals when Raylan begins investigating. Quarles' efforts also brings him into conflict with Boyd's group, resulting in the deaths of several locals. And then simultaneously, Dickie Bennett, the lone survivor of the Bennett clan, seeks to aid the black residents in Nobles Holler and their leader, Elston Limehouse, to recover his inheritance. The actor who plays Elston Limehouse, my Kelty Williamson, he's phenomenal as well.
Yeah. I want to say McKelty also did a stint through here with the Jubilee Theater.
Oh, really?
Way back in the day. Yeah, like early 90s. I want to say I've seen him in some stuff up close and personal.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, everybody wanted to work with Rudy Eastman back in the day. It was the guy that ran Jubilee Theater here. He's since passed on.
Well, Limehouse tries to keep his people out of the struggle between the criminal groups, but he becomes involved when Boyd gets the upper hand on Quarles, leading to a series of betrayals and deaths. Season 4, which we talked about, where you get to see the high school, that's about a mystery which has been left unsolved for 30 years. On January 21st, 1983, a man wearing a defective parachute plummets into a residential street in Corbin, Kentucky, dying instantly, and his body is surrounded by bags full of cocaine and an ID tag for Waldo Truth.
Wow.
Raylan learns of the mystery when a vintage diplomatic bag is found hidden at Arlo's house containing the Waldo Truth ID tag. This one, it ends up being, it ends up that they're searching for someone named Drew Thompson. Drew Thompson was a man who disappeared and they believed is the one who pushed the body out of the plane, trying to escape. And so this one becomes trying to find out who Drew Thompson is, because they believe Drew Thompson is still living in or around Harlan. This is also the season that a minister ends up opening up a church out in Harlan, and seeks to and seeks to save all the residents of Harlan and get them free of the drugs and the crime and the prostitution and everything like that, which is of course where Boyd makes a lot of his money. And so Boyd is very much opposed to this minister stepping in and trying to save his county. We get introduced to Boyd's old army buddy Colton Coat Rhodes in here, who's played by Ron Ellard. And that's a great storyline as well with Colt, because Colt is just a stone cold hard badass.
Nice.
Who is addicted to heroin.
Oh, even better.
Yes. Boyd's cousin Johnny, who's played by David Muir, gets a bigger role in this season, and really seems to kind of be pretty much against Boyd secretly. He's really in love with Ava, and Boyd is now with Ava, and Johnny is very jealous of his relationship with Ava and the fact that he cut him out of most of his dad's fortune. Season 5, which I said I'm not very fond about at all. This features the alligator farming Crow crime family led by Daryl Crow Jr., who's Michael Rappaport, who does a good job in his role.
Yeah, I love Michael Rappaport.
But the family gets very tiring.
Alicia Witt is connected with that family, right?
Yeah, she's the sister of Daryl Crow Jr. Okay. And so she's in it, and she's really good as an actress as well. She kind of tries to play an up and up. She's a paralegal, and she tries to keep things on the up and up, but she keeps getting sucked into the Crow family crimes and their problems, and it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of season 5. I could have done without season 5. I don't like that family at all. I don't like how they deal with things during season 5.
Right on.
But
it's not the acting; it's more the writing.
Yeah, I think maybe. I don't think the episodes were as good for season 5. I really don't. And the Crow family is there all the time, and they're just I think they're annoying characters.
Okay.
Season 6 revolves around the culmination of Raylan and Boyd's rivalry. Ava had to go to jail for a while for murder, and then she was released to be a CI for Raylan because Raylan has gotten the opportunity to go after Boyd for big crimes. They want to get him on a RICO charge, and so the U.S. attorney has put Boyd on that. You also get Avery Markham in season 6, who's played by Sam Elliott, the great Sam Elliott.
Love Sam Elliott.
Although it's very unsettling to see him without his mustache.
Oh, he's mustacheless?
Yes, he's completely shaved of his mustache in this, and that's a little unsettling. But season 6 is a really, really good season with Raylan focused on getting Boyd put away forever. And then he ends up, again, at the odds of Avery Markham, who is, I think he's part of the Dixie Mafia.
Oh, yeah.
One
rough.
One of the Dixie Mafia heads. And so he's a part of that. And Boyd is going to attempt to rob Avery Markham and his millions of dollars that he has stashed away in Harlan.
Wow.
Originally, Justified was given a 13-episode order by FX on July 18th, 2009, and it premiered on March 16th, 2010. It was renewed for a second season, which premiered on February 9th, 2011. There were a third season of episodes announced on March 29th, 2011, which premiered on January 17th, 2012. A fourth season of 13 episodes was announced on March 6th, 2012, and premiered on January 8th, 2013. It was renewed for a fifth season, which premiered on January 17th, 2014. And on January 14th, 2014, the series was renewed for its sixth and final season, which premiered on January 20th, 2015. The decision to end the show was primarily based on Timothy Olyphant and Graham Yost. FX Network President John Landgraf said, quote, Yost and Olyphant felt that the arc of the show and what they had to say would best be served by 6 seasons instead of 7, and regretfully, I accepted their decision. Yost's comments were, quote, our biggest concern is running out of story and repeating ourselves. This was a really long conversation. There were financial incentives to keep going, but it really felt in terms of story that 6 years felt about right. Interestingly, the character of Boyd was intended to die in the pilot episode, but producer Yost kept the character when test audiences liked Walt Goggins' performance, and then Goggins was promoted to a main character from season 2 onward. In 2010, it received a Peabody Award. As I said earlier, it received 8 Primetime Emmy Awards. The first season, the series received a single nomination for Outstanding Original Title and Theme Music. For the second season, it received 4 acting nominations for the 63rd Primetime Emmy Awards. Timothy Olyphant for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, Walt Goggins for Outstanding Support Actor in a Drama Series, Margot Martindale for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, and Jeremy Davis for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series. And as I said earlier, Margot Martindale won for her nomination.
Yes, she did.
The third season, it received 2 nominations for the 64th Primetime Emmy Awards, with Jeremy Davies winning for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series and a nomination for Outstanding Art Direction for a Single Camera Series. The fifth season received a nomination for Outstanding Art Direction for a Contemporary or Fantasy Series. Interesting
contemporary or fantasy.
Yeah, interesting category there. And the sixth season received 5 nominations at the fifth Critics' Choice Television Awards, the most for any programs nominated. It received nominations for Best Drama Series, Timothy Olyphant for Best Actor in a Drama Series, Walt Goggins for Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, Joelle Carter for Best Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, and Sam Elliott for Best Guest Performer in a Drama Series, and Sam Elliott won for his performance in that.
Nice.
As I said earlier, in March of 2021, FX and various Justified writers, including Graham Yost, began development on a drama series based on Elmore Leonard's novel City Primeval, and Timothy Olyphant is set to reprise his role as Raylan Givens. In January of 2022, FX greenlit the limited series and confirmed Olyphant would reprise his role. Several of the original Justified writers and producers are involved, and showrunners for City Primeval are David Andren and Michael Dinner, with Dinner also directing. Other executive producers include Olyphant, Yost, Sarah Timberman, Carl Beverly, and Peter Leonard, with the writing staff consisting of Taylor Elmore, Chris Provenzano, Walter Mosley, Isa Davis, and Ingrid Ekajada, and also VJ Boyd. I'm so glad that VJ Boyd is coming back, because VJ Boyd is a big ticket listener.
Yes.
And there are several things that you've heard on the ticket that he brought into the show. You'll hear various names from the ticket that were used as characters in the show. Various drops that they have used on the tickets have been dropped into the show, like anus. You know, the anus is on you.
Anus.
So I'm very glad that VJ Boyd is coming back.
Yes.
The limited.
For our listeners, the ticket is a local sports and goofy radio station.
Yes.
where they basically have like a music slash sports slash pop culture show every afternoon, called The Hardline.
Yes. And so you'll get stuff from the Hardline, you'll get stuff from the Musers, you get all kinds of stuff in here. It's pretty cool if you're a local fan of the Ticket and watch Justified to hear the stuff that they have in here.
The Ticket drops.
The new limited series is set 8 years after the original series and sees Givens, who is now living in Florida, working as a marshal, go to Detroit after crossing paths with a violent sociopath named Clement Mansell. In February of 2022, it was revealed that Quentin Tarantino was in talks to direct episodes of the series.
Nice.
And again, it's set to premiere in mid-2023.
Oh, so we just got a few more months.
Yep. So hopefully that's going to be coming out soon. I'm looking forward to that. But that's about it for Justified. That about covers everything I had for Justified, except go out there and watch it. If you haven't watched it, it's a great show. Watch every season, even get through season 5, which, like I said, was not my favorite. But
but the acting's still good.
The acting is still good. The acting is really, really good in it. So I highly recommend Justified as a TV show that you should watch. You can get it on Hulu for free.
Yes.
If you get it on Amazon Prime, iTunes, or Vudu, you do have to pay for the seasons.
Yeah. But it is currently on Hulu.
Yes, it is currently on Hulu for free, which is where I've been watching it.
Nice.
So that covers it for my nerdery side of the house. I hope everybody enjoyed that.
Well, thank you, sir. I guess it's time for us to turn to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
Oh, very nice. Today we're going to talk about the killing fields.
Okay.
I got my information from USC Shoah Foundation, the Institute for Visual History and Education. There is a Texas.gov site, as we do have a very large Southeast Asian population. Texas Gov has also decided to get the information out there as well as Wikipedia. The killing fields are a number of sites in Cambodia where collectively more than 1 million people were killed and buried after by the Khmer Rouge regime, the Communist Party of Kampuchea, during its rule of the country from 1975 to 1979. Immediately after the end of the Cambodian Civil War, 1970 to 1975, the mass killings were part of a broad state-sponsored genocide, the Cambodian genocide. Analysis of 20,000 mass grave sites by the DC CAM mapping program and Yale University indicate at least 1,386,734 victims of execution.
Oh my God.
Yes. 1/3 of the population of Cambodia.
Wow.
Yes. Estimates of the total death resulting from Khmer Rouge policies include death and disease and starvation ranging from 1.7 to 2.5 million out of the 1975 population of roughly 8 million. So that's where you get basically 1/3. In 1979, Vietnam invaded the Democratic Republic of Kampuchea. In merely a few years during the 1970s, perpetrators of the Cambodian genocide murdered up to 3 million of their fellow countrymen and caused unimaginable suffering to a great number of others. Members of the Khmer Rouge, the radical political regime behind the terror, invoked a dubious justification of their crimes by alleging that such actions would ultimately improve everyday people's quality of life through the establishment of a more egalitarian society under communist rule. This purportedly utopian pursuit has left the Cambodian people with a painful legacy, one that they are still struggling to overcome. It was so severe and people were so hungry that it permanently changed the Cambodian people's cuisine. Before, a lot of fish, a lot of poultry, a lot of beef, believe it or not, as well as, popular Vietnamese fare. Now a delicacy in Cambodia is swamp tarantulas, because the people were so hungry that for so long that they would go out and catch these, because that was the only thing that they could catch and eat that wasn't they wouldn't be put in trouble for. They wouldn't be the spiders were free range, so they would go to these holes, they would collect these spiders, and they would roast them over a fire and eat them. So to this day, Cambodians are still eating these spiders as a form of a delicacy. So this basically begins with Pol Pot. Pol Pot, born Saloth Sar, 19th of May, 1925, to the 15th of April, 1998, was a Cambodian revolutionary, dictator, and politician who ruled Cambodia as Prime Minister of Democratic Kampuchea between 1976 and 1979. Ideologically a Marxist-Leninist and Khmer nationalist, he was a leading member of Cambodia's communist movement, the Khmer Rouge, from 1963 until 1997, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Kampuchea from 1963 to 1981. Under his administration, Cambodia was converted into a one-party communist state and perpetuated the Cambodian genocide. It was at this point where they changed the name from Cambodia to Kampuchea. It has since changed back to Cambodia. Born to prosperous farmers in Prek Subav, French Cambodia, Pol Pot was educated at some of Cambodia's most elite schools. In Paris during the 1940s, he joined the French Communist Party. Returning to Cambodia in 1953, he involved himself in the Marxist-Leninist Khmer Viet Minh organization and its guerrilla war against King Norodom Sihanouk's newly independent government. Following the Khmer Viet Minh's 1954 retreat into Marxist-Leninist-controlled North Vietnam, Pol Pot returned to Phnom Penh, working as a teacher while remaining a central member of Cambodia's Marxist-Leninist movement. In 1959, he helped formalize the movement into the Kampuchean Labour Party, which was later renamed the Communist Party of Kampuchea. To avoid state repression, in 1962, he relocated to a jungle encampment, and in 1963 became the CPK's leader. And in 1968, he relaunched the war against Sihanouk's government after Lori Null ousted Sihanouk in a 1970 coup. Pol Pot's forces sided with the deposed leader against the new government, which was bolstered by the United States military. Aided by the Viet Cong militia and North Vietnamese troops, Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge force advanced and controlled all of Cambodia by 1975. Pol Pot transformed Cambodia into a one-party state called Democratic Kampuchea, seeking to create an agrarian socialist utopian society that he believed would evolve into a communist society. Pol Pot's government forcibly relocated the urban populations to the countryside to work on collective farms. So basically, Phnom Penh and the other cities in Cambodia were cleared out. They sat empty for about 3 years, which is part of the reason why they still had starvation after the end of the Khmer Rouge, because when they moved back into the cities, they had to work on the infrastructure because they sat empty for 3 years in a rainy jungle. Pursuing complete egalitarianism, money was abolished and all citizens were made to wear the same black clothing. Mass killings of perceived government opponents coupled with malnutrition and poor medical care killed between 1.5 and 2 million people, approximately a quarter of Cambodia's population. A process later termed the Cambodian genocide, repeated purges of CPK generated growing discontent. By 1978, Cambodia soldiers were mounting a rebellion in the east. After several years of border clashes, the newly unified Vietnam invaded Cambodia in December 1978, toppling Pol Pot and installing a rival Marxist-Leninist government in 1979. The Khmer Rouge retreated to the jungles near the Thai border From where they continued to fight in declining health, Pol Pot stepped back from many of his roles in his movement. And in 1998, the Khmer Rouge commander Tom Mok placed Pol Pot under house arrest, shortly after which he died. Taking power at the height of the Marxist-Leninist global impact, Pol Pot proved divisive among the international communist movement, many claiming he deviated from orthodox Marxist-Leninism, but China backed his government as a bulwark against Soviet influences in Southeast Asia. To his supporters, he was a champion of Cambodian sovereignty in the face of Vietnamese imperialism and stood against the Marxist revisionism of the Soviet Union. Conversely, he was widely denounced internationally for his role in the Cambodian genocide and is regarded as a totalitarian dictator guilty of crimes against humanity. So, of course, you had the communist movement in Vietnam, which, some of us or most of us are familiar with, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. And eventually North Vietnam took over South Vietnam. And then quickly Cambodia and Laos also became communist states. Cambodia, what was going on in Cambodia was so bad that the other communist states in the area invaded to make it stop. So there was so much killing and horribleness going on that these two countries decided they needed to step in and fix it. And as much as you may or may not be against communist Vietnam, they really did a good thing there and continued to fight the Khmer Rouge well into the late 80s until Cambodia could basically stand up on its feet again. See, because again, from 1970, the early part of 1976 till 1979, their city sat empty. Everybody was out in the countryside working 6 18-hour weeks or 6 18-hour days a week. They were only allowed one day off a week. And it was backbreaking work in rice fields, in wheat fields, making cotton, weaving clothing. I mean, they were basically slave labor. And it wasn't just a small section of the population. It was like 95% of the population was forced to do this. So much so that they ended up having to eat spiders. Just horrible. So the newly formed Vietnam stepped in and basically pushed the Khmer into a small base in Thailand, where they remained until the late 90s. Eventually, the Khmer Rouge lost all their power, and they're no longer around anymore. But it took, a good 12 to 15 years for that to happen. As I said, the Vietnamese troops stayed in the country till 1989, with armed clashes between the Vietnamese and the Cambodians going on throughout the 1980s. A post-Pol Pot government with some democratic features led by a reestablished monarchy took over. Yet the Khmer Rouge did not disappear until much later. So it was so bad that the communist government of Vietnam says, yeah, fine, you want a non-communist government? That's great. Just stop all the killing, which is what happened. Khmer Rouge did not disappear until much later and continued to hold the Cambodia's seat on the United Nations for 12 years. On October 23rd, 1991, the Comprehensive Cambodian Peace Agreement, commonly referred to as the Paris Peace Accords, was brokered by the United Nations, ending the 12-year civil war in Cambodia. Cambodia was temporarily governed by the National Council and the United Nations Transit Authority of Cambodia. And in May of 1993, the first free elections in more than 20 years were held. In January 2001, the Cambodian government established the Khmer Rouge Tribunal to try leaderships of the Khmer Rouge for crimes against humanity. Trials began in 2009, but have led to only 3 convictions, including that of Kang Guek, and Eve, the commander of the S-21 prison camp, who was sentenced to life imprisonment for crimes against humanity. The vast majority of the perpetrators suffered no consequences for their actions. The judicial process of the Khmer Rouge regime for minor or political crimes began with a warning from the Angkar, the government of Cambodia underneath this regime. People received more than 2 warnings were sent to re-education, which meant near certain death. People were often encouraged to confess to Angkar their pre-revolutionary lifestyles and crimes, which usually included some kind of free market activity. Having had contact with a foreign source such as the U.S. missionary, international relief, or government agency, or contact with any foreigner or with the outside world at all, being told that Angkor would forgive them and wipe the slate clean. They were then taken away to places such as Tuol Sleng or Ek for torture and or execution. Executed were buried in mass graves. In order to save ammunition, the executions were often carried out using poison, spades, or sharpened bamboo sticks. Inside the Buddhist memorial stupa at Choek Ek, there is evidence of bayonet, knives, wooden clubs, hoes for farming, and curved scythes being used to kill victims, with images of skulls damaged by these implements as evidence. In some cases, the children and infants of adult victims were killed by having their heads bashed against the trunks of chankiri trees.
Oh my gosh.
And then were thrown into pits along with their parents. The rationale was to stop them growing up and taking revenge for their parents' deaths. Some victims were required to dig their own graves. Their weakness often meant that they were unable to dig very deep, and the soldiers who carried out the executions were mostly young men or women from peasant families. I have included some pictures of some of these monuments. These Buddhist stupas are beautiful. They're in these wonderful park-like settings, right? These big white and gold monuments. When you walk up to them, you don't realize what they are. They're squared. Well, I mean, they're obelisks. But the large rectangle centerpiece is a window, and it's full of skulls. They have thousands of these all across Cambodia. And they're maybe not house size, but shed size. Again, I have included some pictures with these skulls in them. And they are, in some cases, some of these people were never identified. The ones that they were able to identify, they've turned these prison camps into museums. And they have pictures of the people who were taken in, because the Khmer Rouge made sure to take a mugshot and write down all their pertinent information before sending them to be re-educated or executed. Not everybody who was sent to the re-education camps was executed, which is where I want to get off and talk about The Killing Fields a little bit, the film and book. It's a 1984 British biographic film and about the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, which is based on the experiences of 2 journalists, Cambodian Dith Pran and American Sidney Schonberg. It was directed by Roland Joffe and produced by David Putnam for his company Goldcrest Films. Sam Waterston stars as Schonberg and Hang S. Nagore as Pran. Julian Sands as John Swain, and John Malkovich as Al Rokon. The adaptation for the screen was written by Bruce Robinson, and the musical score was written by Mike Oldfield and orchestrated by David Bedford. Dith Pran was born September 23rd, 1942, and he passed away on the 30th of March, 2008, was a Cambodian photojournalist. He was a refugee and a survivor of the Cambodian genocide and a subject of the film The Killing Fields. So in 1975, Dith and the New York Times reporter Sidney Schonberg stayed behind in Cambodia to cover the fall of the capital, Phnom Penh, to the communist Khmer Rouge. Schonberg and other foreigner reporters were allowed to leave the country, but Pran was not. Due to the persecution of intellectuals during the genocide, he hid the fact that he was educated or that he knew Americans and pretended that he had been a taxi driver. But Pran, when Cambodians were forced to work in labor camps, Dith had to endure 4 years of starvation and torture before the Vietnamese overthrew the Khmer Rouge on the 7th of January, 1979. He coined the phrase killing fields to refer to the cluster of corpses and skeletal remains of victims he encountered during his 40-mile escape. His 3 brothers and 1 sister were killed by the Khmer Rouge. Dith traveled back to Siem Reap, where he learned that 50 members of his family had also died. The Vietnamese had made him village chief, but he feared they would discover his U.S. ties, and he escaped to Thailand on the 3rd of October, 1979. And then he immigrated to New York City and wrote his book, The Killing Fields, which was made into a movie very shortly after. So the film, The Killing Fields, does take some liberties. The book does not. It is from this gentleman's point of view, and he was basically a reporter on the ground living through it. So in the film, when he crawls through those fields of bones where he's, like poking his feet on them because they're piled so high and he has to crawl through them, that really happened to that dude. That was a real thing. So if you want to get a scope of what they were doing, you can watch this film, because the person who told the story was very heavily involved in the making of the film, and he wrote the book on which it was produced. That is about all I have for Pol Pot and the Killing Fields.
Wow.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Le Olam Lo. Never again, baby. We need to stop doing stuff like this. Sorry. It's Hebrew for never again. Le Olam Lo.
No, that's fine. I just, wow. That's a lot to take in.
Another little piece of information. Cambodia has just now recovered that population.
Wow.
Yeah. Took them 50 years. Well, 40, because it ended in 1979. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for taking us on that trip, as horrible as it is.
Yeah, that was pretty awful.
Yeah, usually I'm on that side of the table, and it's a little refreshing to be on this side of the table today.
Yeah, maybe you want to do some more nerdery.
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate them. That'll take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find our information on nerderymurdery.com. You can find the links to contact us if you want to talk about things you want to see, talk about things you don't want to hear. We do listen to all feedback and take it as they come in. You can also find the links to what we talk about in the show, along with pictures. And then you can find the link to our YouTube page.
That is right. We have a YouTube page where every single episode of the Nerdery has an entry, including this one, with some really, really choice pieces of dialogue from Justified.
Outstanding.
Yes, we have playlists there where you can see all these really neat little videos and how-tos and things like that, as well as things that we think are funny and peeks behind the curtain, as it were.
Awesome. You do really good work on that. Definitely appreciate that. You can also find the link to our merchandise, where if you wish to show off your Nerdery Murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing some merchandise there, as well as the link to our Patreon, where if you wish to become a patron to our show, help us keep going with the costs that do occur with keeping the show on the air and keeping it going. Please do consider being a patron. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. And last but not least, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find our content that may be looking for us. So with that, this week, I have been Geoffrey with your Nerdery.
And I have been Zig with your Murdery.
Cue the music.